Hey guys, it's Nolan Alders. Something just happened on the 5 that completely blew the lid off the media's fake narrative surrounding Joe Biden. And guys, I'm not going to stay silent on this one. I'm going to play the clip for you in just a second. But before I do me a big favor. Hit that thumbs up like button if you're tired of being lied to and want the truth front and center where it belongs.
President Trump blitzing Capitol Hill to save the day on the big, beautiful bill and smacking Republican holdouts into line. He popped up at 4 separate camera stakeouts to close the deal. And of course, couldn't resist but to comment on the Biden cover-up.
We're going to start looking into this whole thing with who signed this legislation. Who signed legislation opening our border? I don't think he knew. I said there's nobody that could want an open border. Nobody. And now I find out that it wasn't him. He auto-penned it. Who was operating the autopen? No sane person would sign it. You know who signed it? Radical left lunatics that were running our country, and the autopen signed it. And they didn't want him, and they were disappointed in getting him because they wanted Bernie Sanders. And then after about 2 weeks, they said, wait a minute, this is a gift. He'll do anything.
But Democrats in the media, who blew their credibility by participating in the cover-up, are loudly telling people there's nothing to see here.
They literally are trying to take health care, and Republicans want to fan the flames of conspiracy theories at this moment. No, thank you.
I don't think this is a time for politics, but what I will say is that this administration has cut cancer funding research, and I think that's so despicable and so disdainful.
According to a spokesman, Joe Biden's last known prostate-specific antigen test was in 2014. And his first cancer diagnosis was last Friday. Meanwhile, Joe Scarborough is saying, F you, if you dare call him Biden's lapdog.
There were plenty of days in public when he was not the best Biden ever. And of course, shortly after,
he stumbled and bumbled around, Mark. I mean, yeah, he certainly did. Donald Trump did. Other politicians did. It's actually the same case as a lot of times when I've gone in and talked to Donald Trump. That didn't seem to me to get in the way of Joe Biden being able to analyze the most important issues. And I certainly think he has a better grasp on it than probably the overwhelming majority of his critics, or certainly did when I spoke with him.
And Kennedy, the media is handling this Biden cover-up in a funny way. There's factions that are breaking off. Sure. Explain how people are dealing with this.
Well, Joe Scarborough is in denial, and his words will come back to haunt him for as long as he is on the air, because he was the guy, and he's trying to kind of shellac it, gloss over it a little bit right now, give it a favorable finish, which isn't going to do any good, because when you go back and look at the original tape, he's like, this is the best Joe Biden. And he keeps going back to analysis, like his analysis is spot on. He is sharp. He is fast. And it's like, no, he was a withering vegetable who had real problems, and everyone around him knew it. And now they're all going on and off the record to a number of different authors. We've got 4 books and counting about Biden's cognitive decline that tell the opposite picture of the magical interactions that Joe Scarborough and Joe Biden had, which, you know, all you had to do was look at Joe Biden every other second of the day to know that something was terribly wrong. Yep. And the prostate cancer, the metastatic prostate cancer, that diagnosis is awful, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. You know, it's terribly sad and concerning that a family has to deal with something like that, but they have managed to politicize it. And you have to think logic would dictate that they've known about that diagnosis for a long time. It is incredibly inconvenient for his post-presidency, because the other post-presidencies have been very lucrative in modern history, and he will not get to enjoy that. And so it feels like they kind of put that news in there because they were bookended by her tapes and, of course, the book that came out today, Original Sin, and they both draw a very damning portrait. So there are people who say, you know, like Sunny Hostin, like, we can't make this about politics. It's like, if this were Trump, it would be impeachment. It would be like, impeach him for what he did, 75 years ago. Impeach him for everything. It would be a full nuclear holocaust. So you can't have it both ways. It's either completely political and everything is on the table, or the entire thing was a lie and we have to move on completely from the Democrat establishment.
Jessica, they're saying they never tested his prostate for cancer in the last 10 years. Do you believe that?
Yeah, I do believe that. There are a lot of doctors who've been talking about the fact that now, after the age of 70, that they don't recommend that you test your PSA levels. Now, I think that if you are the commander-in-chief and the leader of the free world, you should probably have some extra tests than the average 75, 78-year-old. But you know, I have no reason to not believe them about that. And even Scott Adams, who's a good friend of Greg's and created Dilbert, who is unfortunately also dying of this same cancer, he posted a video saying he was going to pass away this summer. And he's no fan of Joe Biden, but he said it is completely feasible that they did just find out about this. And it wasn't some big cover up. And even Zeke Emanuel, who went on Morning Joe and was talking about it, said he had to have known for 10 years. A guy who actually has the same disease is saying his story could possibly check out.
But he wasn't president. Scott Adams wasn't president.
But Scott Adams I led with, I'm not saying that someone who has the most important job in the entire world shouldn't have extra testing. I'm just saying that going to this is a massive cover-up that's been going on for years and that he knew that he had cancer and he still ran for re-election, that seems like a bridge too far. Democrats we're very good at self-flagellation. It's like our favorite thing to do. I feel like Republicans, they suffer a setback, something bad happens, they just move on. They plow through, and oftentimes they go with the same behavior and they don't care. And Democrats, we love to wallow. We love to say, oh, woe is us. This is what we did here. But I understand what Hakeem Jeffries is talking about. We cannot go back. 2024 cannot be undone. There are people who won't trust the media again. That's all well and good, but we still have elections to win, and we're staring down the barrel of this GOP resolution, the big reconciliation bill, the big, beautiful bill that favors the wealthiest Americans and penalizes the poor. And Donald Trump, I get it, he's very high energy. But when you actually read the transcripts of what he's talking about, he says, oh, Joe Biden's brain is absolute mush. He has stage 9 cancer, which is not real. Oh, by the way, I just aced a cognitive test. He loves bragging about that, you know, man, woman, person, camera, TV. And we are also supposed to believe that he's 6'3" and 224 pounds, which makes him an NFL wide receiver. There are, and we forgot, remember his original doctor who forged that letter about him? Like, come on here.
Come on, it's actually comparing him to this. This is a mess. Like, you have no reason to question the Dems about this. Are you out of your mind? That they're the best doctors in the world, and a patient who is arguably the most important patient in the world who gets tested pretty much weekly. They have to check him out, but somehow they decided not to do this. I'm wondering, do you believe that story, or is it possible the Democrats might be lying? Ooh, that's a tough call. Listen to Joe Scarborough just now, feeling like I'm watching a Dateline episode and watching the husband's alibi fall apart, and he's desperately trying to save his life because he's trying to save his job. There is a huge hole in this narrative about Joe's decline. They're trying to present themselves as a loyal staff protecting an incapacitated leader. And yet the policies were anything but feeble. He may have been a mess, but the policies were a coherent list of woke desires. And true, the decisions may have possibly destroyed the country, but that wasn't a byproduct of Biden's brain. That was deliberate and determined, and we need to find out who that person was. This is what Trump is talking about when he's mentioned the autopen. This isn't just about a cover-up of Joe's incapacity. It's why. A debilitated Biden was an ideal Biden. It wasn't a consequence, it was a benefit. If you have a feeble CEO, then the underlings can do exactly what they wanted. And it answers that huge paradox that we were wondering for 4 years. How did a candidate running as a reasonable centrist, a moderate, end up as the most left-wing progressive president in history? I just told you the answer. The debilitation was deliberate. And the ideas that we saw coming happened because of that. They embraced his infirmity. It was necessary for all this to happen. And now what they're trying to do is an emotional pivot away from our outrage to sympathy, and it won't work. It won't work. I can have and you bring up Scott Adams, and I'm glad you did, one of my dearest friends, a mentor in my life.
His video was
devastating.
Yeah.
I can feel that for him, and also talk about how we need to punish everybody in this White House for what they did to America. I can hold two in my brain. It's hard to believe because my head's so small.
But, Sonny Hostin says it's not a time to be political. The problem is that they have been political with the issue of Joe Biden since the very beginning, since the primaries. They didn't want him. They wanted Pete Buttigieg. They wanted Kamala Harris. They both blew up on the launch pad. So they finally acceded to the fact that they were going to be stuck with Joe Biden. He emerged as the candidate. Then he emerged as the person during COVID who could potentially beat Donald Trump. So it has always been political, and it has always compromised the country, because this is the commander-in-chief who 80% of the American public said in a CNN poll in September, right before the election, was not physically or mentally capable of doing the job. So for me, it is absolutely, I agree with her, it is not about politics. It is about the risk that was incurred in the White House, in the highest office in the land, by all of these people, enabling this person to continue to be president. And I think that the accountability has to go back to that point. Not should he run again, should he be serving as president of the United States at that point? This is a real question that needs to be addressed. And if on top of all of that, he was also having treatments, if it turns out that he was also being treated for prostate cancer, which, by the way, is a treatable cancer, but now it's at a point where it's aggressive. These questions are very real. And look at what happened, okay? We have a war in Ukraine that he said a minor incursion might be okay. Look at what's happened. You have thousands of people who've lost their lives in this war. Look at what happened in Israel. These are serious consequences that are the result potentially of someone who perhaps was not up to the job. That goes way beyond politics. That goes to the future and the safety of the country.
All right, guys, let's break this down. What you just witnessed there wasn't just media commentary. That right there was a crack in the dam. For years, guys, I mean, you remember back, for years, the media mocked, ridiculed, and silenced anyone who dared to question Joe Biden's mental and physical health. And now, suddenly, they openly admit what we've all been screaming for years. Give me a break, guys. And here's the most terrifying part. Trump just revealed Biden used an autopen to sign legislation. Guys, I want y'all to let that sink in for a minute. Our president wasn't even the one signing the laws that govern this nation. If Joe Biden wasn't the one signing the bills, who was? Who was running the country, guys? Because I promise you, it wasn't the guy who can't remember what day it is. And then we get to the cancer diagnosis. We're told that Biden just found out about it last week. Meanwhile, the last PSA test on record was from 2014. Guys, that's over a decade ago. Either this was incompetence on an unimaginable scale, or this was a calculated, disgusting cover-up to protect a crumbling administration and keep power out of the hands of the American people. And guys, we can't ignore the bigger picture here. If we zoom out a little bit, Biden's weakness wasn't a flaw to the radical left. It was a feature. A debilitated Biden meant that they could run the show behind the scenes. Guys, this wasn't a presidency. This was a puppet regime. They needed someone who would sign whatever they told him to, mumble through speeches, take the fall when needed. Biden was never the moderate. He was the mask for the most left-wing presidency in modern American history. And the proof is in the policies: open borders, woke indoctrination, green energy insanity, military weakness. None of this came from that man in decline. It came from the radicals behind the curtain. And now they want to shift the narrative. They want us to feel sorry for Biden, to look away, to forget. But guys, we will not forget. We don't forget. We're not buying the sympathy pivot. This is about more than one man. It's about the safety of the United States. It's about the integrity of the office of the presidency. We've been lied to, we've been manipulated, and it ends right here. Do me a big favor, guys. Drop a comment down below. Do you believe Biden's cancer and cognitive issues were covered up? Do you think someone else was the one making the decisions? Subscribe, guys, for more truth that you're not going to hear on legacy media. If you believe in this mission that we're doing here on this channel, guys, do me a big favor. Become a channel member today. Help me fight back against the narrative. This isn't just commentary I'm doing here, guys. This is a battle for America's future, and we're just getting started.